你好，欢迎来到 Leo 和 Lily 的频道。上集我们请美国的一个高管 Mark 分享了他在台湾生活工作15年，又在上海生活工作了3年哈，这个整个的一个心理过程，然后他怎么又能够提前退休在台湾。这一次呢，我们继续听 Mark 把他这个讲完了。他提前退休完了以后，他为什么又决定去泰国了？他呢详细的总结了一下泰国和台湾之间，就作为退休地来说，他们的利跟弊。我们想澄清的一点就是说，我们这采访是 Mark 和周周他太太一起的采访他们家有这么一个宝座哈，在电脑前的，所以每次主讲的人就会坐在这儿啊。我们本来想第2集呢就把他们俩所有讲关于泰国的东西放在一起，但是呢，第一内容很多，干货很多啊，一定要听到最后。另外呢，就是说他们俩侧重点有点不一样，所以今天我们先听 Mark 讲，下次我们听周周讲详细他们在泰国怎么做怎么买卖房子的一些事情啊。
Why did we decide to leave Taiwan and move to Thailand? I will say when I retired from my company, that was not originally our intention. We had bought an apartment in Taichung, not in Taipei, but in Taichung. And it was an older apartment and we remodeled it, set it up. It was really a nice place. We owned a small condo in Phuket, Pujitao. We were really planning, we wanted to have a retirement where maybe we split our lives about 50-50 between Taiwan and Thailand because we owned some property in both places. And I had visited Thailand many times over the years. And that includes when I moved to Taiwan. Now it was just a 3.5-hour flight and basically the same time zone. After my wife and I got married, it was a place that we often went to, and we thought about buying some property, and we did buy actually too much property in Thailand. We ended up buying and selling quite a lot. But at the time of retirement, we had one condo in Phuket and we had one apartment in Taichung. And our intention was we'll share time in both places. But COVID really messed up that plan for us. It was like we were stuck in Taiwan. China was implementing their zero COVID policy, and Taiwan was too. But it was very easy for them to do that because they were just an island. All they had to do was shut down the airports, or make everybody quarantine when they came into the airport. So for the first, say, almost 2 years of the COVID pandemic, there was like no cases. It was like China. There wasn't any in Taiwan. It was amazing. Like the rest of the world was suffering and people were dying, but it just wasn't happening in Taiwan because it was day after day, week after week after week, zero cases. It was the safest place in the world to be, probably, was on that island. But we were stuck there. So we would have to quarantine to go to Thailand, 2 weeks on arrival, come back to Taiwan, another 2 weeks of quarantine. Like, who wants to do that, right? So we decided as soon as we could get the vaccine, we were going to sell our place and leave. And that's exactly what we did. We decided to move to Thailand. The pros and cons of that were that we got to see Thailand and some of the most beautiful beaches in Phuket at a time where there was almost no tourists there.
Wow, you just enjoyed it, huh?
It was empty. But at the same time, it was dead and empty, which is also a negative thing, right?
Kind of a ghost town.
It makes you feel quite sad for the local economy, right?
Yeah.
The restaurant owners and the hotel operators, and the beaches weren't cleaned every day like they normally would be, and the ocean brings in a lot of trash, so there wasn't people there to take care of the beaches every day. So you felt bad about that too, right? You're seeing all these things happen, like, oh man, it really makes you feel bad. But we made the decision. We got there. About a month before we left Taiwan, we had already made a deal with a developer to build our house in Samui, in Sumedao. So they were
Sumedao.
Yes, right. So as I mentioned, we lived in a nice, big, beautiful house in Sumedao, a big villa, a big pool villa, really nice. It wasn't ready yet. It wasn't going to be ready for a while. So we lived in Phuket for a couple of months, and we couldn't stand it anymore. So we rented an apartment in Sumedao so that we could be close to where they were actually building our house, and we could put our eyes on that. I think it took, after we arrived in Thailand, it was probably 9 months before we moved into our house.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah, it was probably 9 months before we moved into our house. So yeah, that's the story. That's how we ended up living in and leaving Taiwan and moving to Thailand. Now, I will say though, and this is important, very important, I still have permanent residency in Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
As long as I visit Taiwan once, just for a day even, every 5 years. I will
Every 5 years.
5 years. All I have to do is show up
Nothing.
one
Okay.
time every 5 years, and I will maintain my permanent residency in Taiwan, which means I continue to have, even today, I continue to have access to Taiwan's national health insurance.
Oh, that is something you want to keep, right?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So back to the question here. So between Taiwan and Thailand, which one do we like better? It's a good question. And I would say that it might be, for me, it might be 50-50, like
Oh,
I'll give some pros and cons for both places. So
okay.
Taiwan, the pros are number one, that great cheap health insurance. And when I say cheap, $25 a month.
Oh, that's really cheap. Yeah.
And it covers everything. Eyes, glasses, dental, inpatient, outpatient. You can use it.
Oh, you don't have to pay separate insurance like in the US, right? For vision,
No,
dental, it's all
Supplemental,
separate.
you can-
So it's everything together, $25. Oh my, even now.
Even now, right? And
Wow.
now, if you're working and you have a salary coming in, they will deduct an amount for health insurance that's a percentage of your income. But if you're a retired person like I am, you just pay the flat rate.
Great.
And you can use it not only at hospitals, but clinics, private doctor's office, like, doctor that just specializes in ears and nose and throat or eyes or whatever. You just use your health insurance card and it's got the chip on there, and you maybe pay a copay, man, it's like $5, it's so cheap, it's like nothing. Taiwan Pros, number one health insurance.
小编温馨提示啊，省得别人整天说我们做号召到全世界去沾光。Mark 在台湾工作了15年啊，实际上交的税呢比普通的台湾人交的都多。和 Mark 一样，如果你想移居台湾，你首先要做贡献。如果你不是台湾需要的精英人才，你可以去创业或者买100万美元的政府债券，有钱出钱，有力出力 ，fair。
Number two, especially in Taipei, it's very clean, it's very safe. It's a very modern place. They have, I'd say, it's a reasonable cost of living. Most things cheaper than the States, but I wouldn't say it's not exactly cheap, but it's not bad. It's not cheaper than Thailand, but it's not bad either. They have excellent public transportation. The subways in Taipei, amazing, and you can go everywhere. They have, in Taiwan, they have a fantastic, what I call service culture. Like if it's service at a restaurant or in a department store, or the guy who comes to your house to install the internet or fix your plumbing or fix your refrigerator, they're so good at that. They're so they really try so hard to do the best that they can, and they have a really good, I think it's another Japanese culture thing. I think they really take pride in trying to do the best that they can for a lot of the things that they do. There's a lot of natural beauty, I think, to be found on the island of Taiwan. The mountains are beautiful. The east side of the country and the beach with the mountains coming right down to the water. There's really some stunning geography in the country. And I'd say Taiwanese people, mostly from my experience, very friendly. The cons for Taiwan, high cost of housing, definitely. Both owning and renting, especially in Taipei. That's the most expensive place. If you want a 2-bedroom, 100 square meters or 150 square meter apartment, if you're maybe 3 bedrooms, if you've got kids, you can easily spend $1 million easily, and up. And that's not a great place. That's just barely good enough place, right? Earthquakes, they have a lot of them. Sometimes they're quite bad.
Yeah. There was one recently. Yeah, in
Yes.
the middle, of the
They
island.
don't often hit bigger than say like a 7, but even the 5s are,
You can feel it definitely,
if
right?
you've never felt one and you feel a 5, you're like, whoa, is that an earthquake? Oh my God, it's an earthquake. At first it's funny and then it isn't funny. It's like, oh my God, when is it going to stop? Because, what's happening to my building? Your TV is shaking and, the stuff gonna
Wow. Uh-huh.
it easily, a 7, I can't imagine what that 7 felt like. I never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad, really. Trust me. It's
Yes, I
scary.
heard that. Yeah. And I also heard the weather in Taipei is not that good either.
Humidity?
So you're going to get typhoons. I say on average, you probably get 2 per year, but not a big impact because the buildings are built from concrete and steel. They're built to withstand earthquakes. So the typhoons don't actually end up doing much damage. Maybe some local flooding, but it really isn't such a big deal. But Taipei weather in winter, especially, very, very wet. And sometimes weeks can go by that you never see the sunshine.
Yeah, that's what I
it's-
heard. Yeah, some people don't like that.
Everything
Yeah.
in your apartment gets moldy. You gotta put
Oh,
humidifier stuff in your closet to, it's like it's quite a wet place, very wet.
that's kind of depressing, huh? A little bit.
It is, but it makes for a very green place. The island is a very green island. You see a lot of trees.
Yeah. Okay.
Thailand pros. What's good about Thailand? Obviously, they've got great natural beauty, the beaches, the islands, the mountains, etc. It's especially for maybe not so much for a Chinese person, but for an American who's never traveled the world that much, coming to Thailand, the culture, the religion, the buildings with the temples and, the royal palace and these things, they're so foreign to a normal American that seeing that is just kind of an amazing thing. They really do have an interesting culture and religion here. Of course, great food options. If you like Thai food, we love Thai food. But it's not just the Thai food. They of course they have great Thai food, but there's a lot of great international food options, and there's a lot of expats that live here. That the Italian restaurant is owned by an Italian guy, and there's Italian people from his family cooking in the it's authentic. It doesn't. It
That's
tastes
great.
They're really good options, especially Bangkok is good, really amazing. Our experience with most Thai people, especially the normal, like Bangkok people, right? They're conservative, they're reserved. I'd say they're friendly, they're very respectful. They do the why and it gives you a sort of a nice feeling as a foreigner that they interact with you in a kind and respectful way, right? And if you pay it back to them, they will appreciate it, I think.
And so most time you don't have hard time. A lot of people can speak English.
That's how my cons, right? The cons. Thank God for Google Translate, right? Really, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago before this technology existed, it was a lot more difficult. In Bangkok, most people, especially, let's say anybody who attended university, they can at least speak some English. But if they haven't used it very often in their daily lives, they might find it difficult to have a conversation with you. Now, in the tourist areas, where a lot of expats and foreigners end up living, like, people who think about living in Thailand, think about living in Phuket or Samui or Pattaya or Bangkok, right? Those are, because there are a lot of foreigners that live there, the Thai people understand if they're going to have a business where they're servicing foreigners, they need to speak English in order to have a successful business. So they often can speak some English. Once you get out of those areas, it's almost zero English. I would say generally it's a cheaper cost of living here than in Taiwan. But I think a lot of people come to visit or think about living in Thailand. They end up with an impression that, wow, it's just not as cheap as I thought it was.
No.
Thailand is not cheap, but it depends on what you're expecting, right?
Yeah.
If you're moving here expecting to resume your normal Western lifestyle, yeah, you're going to pay for that, right? But if you can adjust your expectations and eat more local Thai food at local Thai restaurants and not need a 1,500 square foot 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage, if you can adjust your expectation level down to a more Thai level or a little bit more than a Thai level, it's cheaper than Taiwan. It's definitely cheaper than America, no doubt. Let's see. The last con for Thailand, I would say from our experience so far, Bangkok, it's a great city to live in. It's very diverse. There's so many interesting things to see and do here. Shopping, wow, it's much more modern than we expected, much more modern than we imagined. There's so many big modern shopping malls and public transportation. The BTS is easy to use. It's easy to walk around. I don't know, we're quite happy living here. And it's within our budget. Thailand cons. What's bad about living in Thailand? Immigration and visas, right? It can be a hassle, right? If you don't qualify for some of the longer term visas, for someone like you and I, Leo, and Lily, the most likely path is a retirement visa. And it's something you get for a year and you have to renew it year after year after year and demonstrate that you meet the requirements for that retirement visa year after year after year. When we moved to Thailand, we opted for a 5-year elite visa, which was expensive. We didn't have to do that. And I wouldn't actually recommend people to do that. But it was, for me, and for us, it was a time of uncertainty. We had already made a significant deposit on a house on an island where it's under construction. And I need to be able to go to Thailand and have no concerns about anybody saying you're not able to stay.
I heard a lot of people. I heard a lot of people couldn't go back to their houses in Thailand during the COVID period.
Malaysia, especially Malaysia.
Or Malaysia.
Right. There's almost no way to obtain Thai citizenship. If you want a Thai passport, it's nearly impossible. And there are very limited paths to residency. Like I have permanent residency in Taiwan. I think about the only way you could become a resident in Thailand is if you married a Thai person. And even then, it's not easy. You have to be together for that's like 10 years or something. So communication can be a challenge at times. Also, if you do move to Thailand and you're going to live in Phuket or Koh Samui or Chiang Mai or Pattaya or Bangkok, expect to be around tourists wherever you go. At first, that's no big deal because you're kind of one of them. But after 3 years of living in Thailand, we're not tourists anymore. We live. This is our normal everyday life, right? And we still see tourists acting stupid and taking a lot of photos. It's like, it's okay. It doesn't really bother me that much, but just be prepared that you're going to see that, especially in Phuket. It's like, it's almost all tourists. There's way more foreigners in Phuket than there are Thai people. Because there's so many people there on holiday and expats living there, retired there, wherever. And then lastly, Taiwan versus Thailand healthcare. No contest. Taiwan wins. It's not even close. $25 a month, $300 a year. I paid $760 per year for inpatient only coverage. This is like if an emergency happened and I had a heart attack or I needed to go stay in the hospital for a couple of weeks for something. It would be some basic coverage, and it's limited at $14,500 a year. That's the limit.
Upper limit, okay.
I could pay for more, but I'm not willing to pay for more because I know I could go back to Taiwan if I needed to.
Pay more in Thailand. Also, the coverage is very limited. That's what he said.
Thai people pay less because they have
but foreigners, it's a different price.
You said for the inpatient, you pay like a $700 something, right? For the inpatient,
$760 per year. Are you familiar with Cigna? They're a healthcare company.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They've changed to become Chubb. my health insurance is with a company called Chubb, formerly Cigna.
Oh, I see.
And they have different levels of coverage. You can
Mm.
choose inpatient only, or you can add outpatient.
Oh,
They
okay.
have different annual limits on how much.
Oh,
I'm not the lowest, but I'm like number 2. And I could go for higher limits, but of course I would pay considerably more for
Uh-huh.
those higher
Oh, okay.
levels of coverage. But I keep what I've got here as just in case an emergency happened. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
suddenly an ambulance had to take me to the hospital because I had a heart attack and I needed, you know,
Yeah,
coverage
okay.
for that. That's really the only reason I'm keeping it. If I found out that I had cancer, I think I would move to Taiwan immediately.
Let me have the last question. And
Sure.
like I mentioned in the previous session, so I know after retirement, you can go anywhere in the world, right? So
Oh, yeah.
why did you just pick
Why-
another
Why
Asian
Thailand?
country?
Yeah, yeah. Why not Europe?
I have never been to Europe, and I should, but I'm a white guy. And for me, Europe is just more white people and old stuff. Like, why do I need to go? There's nothing interesting there for me. I know that's terrible. Like I should be interested. Like I should want to go, but I'm so entertained by my life in Asia. It's
Okay.
just more, I don't know. It's emotionally and intellectually stimulating for me to be here in ways that I can't quite explain. It's so different than the life I had in America. And Europe is just America, but different, you know?
A little bit different,
Yeah.
minor variation. I fully understand, you know, like, so for me, like, you know, grew up in China and then stayed another 20 plus years in the US. I feel like I'm so familiar with Chinese culture, American culture now. I want to go to Europe.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
I feel more exciting to me, right? So it's all
Sure.
about, you know, experience, right? Where we haven't had experience, we want to, you know, we are more eager to go.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But why I chose Thailand, it's really, as I kind of mentioned a few times during our discussion, it's one of the first places I ever went in Asia. And it's a place that I've been visiting so many times over the years. It was like when I told my family that I was leaving Taiwan and moving to Thailand, they were like, yeah, we're not surprised at all. You know, like that makes totally logical sense. Like, you know, they knew that eventually I would end up living there. So it seemed like it's kind of my destiny somehow. I almost don't need to look at Google Maps. I can rent a motorcycle and just drive around like it's one of my old hometowns or something. Like I know the neighborhood quite well. So that's part of the reason.
Do you foresee you're gonna continue to live in Thailand for a very long time, or you're gonna change to another location?
I think there's a future. We can already imagine a future where our original idea to split our time between Taiwan and Thailand could happen, where maybe we reestablish a place to live in Taiwan, and keep our place that we've already bought here in Bangkok and just kind of share our life, because my wife is a more social person than I am. I'm quite happy to just talk to her. I don't have many friends, and I don't need to. It's pretty private, but she likes to have friends, and we speak English most of the time. She doesn't get an opportunity to speak Chinese with me very much, or with her friends, unless it's on the phone. So going back to Taiwan would give her an opportunity to interact with her old friends and speak her native language much more often than she does today. And I respect that. I want that for her too, right? It's not fair for me to force her into this life.
Any possibility or desire, I would say, because you're from the USA, right? To moving back to the US.
In the strongest words possible, absolutely not. I would
really?
I will never live in America again. Never.
Wow.
Unless I have to, like if my father becomes, not able to take care of himself and I need to go there to care for him or something. I have lived outside my own country for 21 years now. And I never once missed the place. I missed people. I missed certain things like NFL on Sunday, stupid American stuff like that. certain foods, but I never missed boring, generic suburbs with the same subdivisions over and over again and the same strip centers with the same Taco Bell. And it's just, it's so boring. That life where you have to drive a car everywhere to do anything, Asia is so much better for me in that regard. Living in a city where I could just walk out and there's restaurants right there, and the supermarket is a 5-minute walk away, or I can get on public transportation and be in a different neighborhood in 5 minutes, and there's all these things that are just not, except for maybe New York City or a few, maybe Chicago. Most American cities, even the big ones, they don't really offer that kind of lifestyle. It's just not, nope, I'm not going back there. Plus, I retired young. I retired 4 years before you did.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money to live the 5-star American lifestyle. I had enough money to live in Taiwan and definitely in Thailand.
Yeah.
My budget can't do that American cost of healthcare and car insurance and homeowners insurance and property tax and school tax. And it just goes on and on and on, man. The costs of inflation is
and going up. Yeah.
You must have a car. So you got to pay for gas and tires and brakes and oil changes. And it never ends. And all of these costs that I have described, except for health insurance, I don't have any of those costs. None of them. Absolutely zero of those costs. Right? I don't have a car. Well, I have a car, but I only use it to go to the supermarket. I fill it up, and a tank of gas lasts me 2 months. So part of the reason is, how much money did I retire with? And I didn't really retire with enough to live in America. Not at the same quality of life that I have here. Certainly.
Yeah. I mean, there are cheaper places in the US, but the quality is not that great. Yeah,
that's right.
刚才听你老公讲了那么多，你们从上海到台湾到泰国哈，你同意吗？我估计可能西方人跟咱们的观点可能还不完全一样哈。
他的感受跟我的感受有一些不一样，因为他一直都是在美国的公司，所以接触的人群啊什么都不一样。我们其实在10年前的时候也有去马来西亚，那个时候也有考虑过这个，是他们叫第二家园。对，我们买了好多，也买了地，也买了房子，买了好多。我觉得为什么泰国这么多人会想要买？第一个，因为它的租金高，然后呢，你非常的容易 fall in love in Thailand， 真的不骗你。你就是像我这样，像我老公很喜欢，像我也很喜欢。